Hey, hello. This is Bob from the Two Old Guys Garage. It's December 18th, 2024. This is my coupe. The part number would be M2. And that's for maintenance and updates and so on. So since M1 went out about a week ago, I've got tie wraps and finished up on the spark plug wiring redo with some pretty blue tie wraps that Randy the Riveter got for me. And it's happened on both sides. And then I discussed the fact that I was going to replace this tie rod joint to get away from the shortened washer instead of the castle nut with a cotter pin. So finally that part has come in from Rock Auto. It was supposed to be here on the 13th, but it got delayed. And that's that part right there. Left-hand thread. And it's a Moog part. I like to use Moog whenever I can get a choice. They're made in the USA. The inside of this joint has, of course, the steel ball, but then it fits into a concave steel cup that's slotted, and in the slots it retains grease. So it's a metal-to-metal fitting, which makes it a very tight and a very wearable type device. Now, I'm not going to install this today because I just got this in the mail maybe half an hour ago. And what I want to do is I want to clean it up and paint it black epoxy before I install it. And we had a cold front moved in last night, so it's not good for painting. I don't want to screw it up. So I will get that later sometime, get it painted and installed. Maybe that'll be M3 or whatever. Here's a shot of a stock Ford rear end, and that particular part is right there with the circle in it, letter C as in Charlie. That's the left-hand thread, and the left-hand thread is on the driver's side of the cross type staff. So what I thought I would do at this point is talk a little bit about the 32 and some of its ancient history at this point. And what I wanted to start with was to discuss the inside of the car. The 32 Ford 5-window coupe is not that spacious. It's pretty much room for two people across. And the stock 32 has a steel shelf back here. Move the crap out of the way. That's this width. So when I first got the car, of course it wasn't hardly together, there was no floor in it, there was a partial steel tubing for a floor frame. In the 50s, the average male teen was about 5'7" to 5'8", and they wore a 7 to 8 shoe size. Johnny Ryan, the builder, number one of the car to begin with, was even shorter. He was about 5'5", 5'6", with a correspondingly smaller shoe size. So when I got the car in 1960, it was obvious that the pedals were very low and close to the floor. And if you look there, one of the ways, me being about 5'11 plus with a size 11 shoe, one of the first things I did was when I completed the floor, I put this drop down section so that my heels could go in there and I could have better room to hit the pedal assemblies. So it's always been a tight fit. In 2011, I did a major interior redo, and what I did was, if you look here, you'll see there's a corner right there. I actually cut the metal shelf back about 2 inches, redid the 69 Corvette seat frame rails to move the seat back further and give me more leg room for moving my feet up and down. And the Corvette seats have really quite a tip back on the incline. So one of the things that I also did was I modified the seat so it was in a more normal, quote, upright position. And I did that to both seats. I didn't notch this back here for the passenger side because there was plenty of room. So everything was moved back. And at the same time, I took the Hearst Competition Plus shift, which always was tight to my right leg, and I cut it, and I put a 1-inch aluminum spacer in, bolted it together, and that actually moved it over 1.1 inches and down 1.5 inches, which gave it a much more comfort feel. Plus, at the time, the column drop on the original Ford column was this guy with this. When I installed the steering column drop in the dash in 1960, I didn't like the fact that the bottom curve of the stock dash put this at an angle. I wanted it straight, so I actually went and got a 7/8 thick piece of aluminum and hogged that out and polished it so that it would compensate and do the curve. Well, in 2011 I actually removed this piece, still using this piece, which, as you can see, raised the steering column up at more of an angle, again to give myself more room in the car. And then I also added, as mentioned last time in M1, the 3.5-inch dish. So that made it pretty good, but I still always had trouble with the clutch because there wasn't a lot of room to move it up and down, foot to the side. So in January 2020, I had a brain fart, and what I did was, get this kind of bright, I removed the interior wood plywood covering the quarter panel, and then moved the upholstery, almost too bright here, moved the upholstery directly to the outside metal of the quarter, which now gave me the desirable, necessary foot room to move my foot out, to park it when I wasn't on the clutch, and to get to the clutch a lot easier. Great thing. So all of that really made it much more drivable and comfortable. Now, again, as I said, that the 32 5-window is not known for having a lot of room, but when you channel the body 7 inches over the frame, you lose this 7 inches. I mean, you can see it, where this originally is on top of the frame. Now it's 7 inches below the frame. So it took an already restricted room, and made it even tighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause at this point, and maybe when I get back with segment 2, putting the ball joint in on the drag link, I'll give a little more information on what the car consists of, starting at the front and moving back, and what was done to the frame and the rear and that type of stuff. But for now, I'm going to call this a quits, and I'm going to probably masking tape the ball joint. Hope to get some warmer weather where I can paint it. All right, be back to taking a pause. Hey, hello, it's Bob. Two Old Guys Garage on the 32 Coupe side. It's December 19th, 2024. I just finished publishing part 43 for the Angler, and now I'm going to work on M2 segment 2 of the Coupe. There is the new left-hand thread tie rod end for the end of the drag bar. I painted it earlier this morning after it warmed all night in the house, and it seems to be pretty dry. I had another brain fart, put an electric heater here to help it cook, so I think I'm going to try to put it in now. So I'm going to pause, and I'll get back to you in a little bit. Hey, back after a short pause. Same day. That went a lot easier than I thought it was. There it is, it's in, matching the depth of what I had on the other one. I have yet to drive the car out and see where the steering wheel centering location goes. Anyway, now that that's done, let me go back over here. This is segment 2 of M2. Segment 1, the one just before this. I was talking about this front end, and I called it a rear end. No, it's a front end. And it is typical of the front end. So all the way up to 1948 on the Fords. And the only thing that's not showing here is that the steering box connects to this drag link, which goes across, and then this wheel is connected to this wheel, which lines them up for left-right. In my case on the 32, the steering box that's not shown was turned sideways through the frame rail, and this piece ran along the frame rail and connected to the driver's side steering, which then connects the same as this to the cross. And the reason I had this out was I had to determine that I was going to order the tie rod joint that actually was a left-hand thread, and the part numbers imply it with an L and an R on the end of them. However, I wasn't quite sure from the description. It doesn't say left-hand thread, right-hand thread. So I looked this up, and that's why this is marked as a letter C and a letter C. That's where the left-hand threads go. And by description, when you order the tie rods, they'll talk about Pitman side and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's okay. So now what I'm going to do at this point, wrap this video up, is I'm going to talk about what parts are in the car, starting with the front. This is what's known as the front spreader bar in a 32 Ford. The part that I got, the original part, when I got the car in June of 1960, was all bent and dangled up. I looked around in the garage and I found this plumbing pipe that was already chromed, and what I did was I cut off the old piece, stuck this inside the spreader bar ends, and then welded it up and did a little trim and painting. So that's what that is. And these are Suzuki motorcycle directional signals. This is a 32 grill shell and grill. The radiator is a 65 289 V8 Mustang. The front axle is a Super Bell dropped tubular, and the tubular axles were only available in the Ford 1937 V8 60 model. Otherwise, they're an I-beam, so they're kind of rare and hard to get. Let's see. Oh, the brakes. Well, what the brakes are from a Volvo 122 1962 model that's been adapted with a combination of Volvo bearing seals, Ford bearings. I think one of them is, I remember it was inner or outer. One of them is a Ford bearing stock, and the other one. And they're on 1948 Ford spindles. The front spring is a 32 aftermarket replacement. The front cross member is a Model A, not it's a 3031 Model A. And the reason that is because where the spring fits into the cross arch, the 3031 Model A is actually 1 inch, lowers the car 1 inch compared to the 32. So it was an old trick to put in a Model A cross member to get the front end down even lower. Of course, the engine is a 69 Corvette LT-1, and I'll talk about that at some future date, about my experience and what happens. As pointed out a little while back, that's the new Miata MX-5 slave cylinder. Starting motor was 64 Monte Carlo. The distributor is an early Chevrolet that's been modified. I'll talk about that later. In fact, I'll talk in general about the engine later. The firewall was replaced by John with a solid piece of 12-gauge steel. And I liked it so much that you'll notice there's nothing on this firewall except for the accelerator, pedal linkage, and these clips which hold the tie down with Zeus fasteners, the hood. It's a 32 hood. The side panels, which are hanging over there, are custom made from an aluminum sheet. 32 body, doors, rear fenders. When you get Chevrolet bell housing, Borgenbeck 10.5-inch clutch, coupled to a 63 aluminum T10 Corvette transmission, to a 54 drive shaft, to a 68 XKE rear end mounted in its housing. Let's see, what else? Oh, this is the influence of my foreign car work. This is a Lucas license plate light and 53 MG TD taillights. And also, if you go inside the car, I'll continue. There. Trying to make this flash so it's going to get too boring. Anyway, if you turn on the headlights, battery switch is off. This 32 dash, this oval aluminum was custom made. And as I recall, it took the mathematical formula for an elliptical. It took me 2 hours to draft out a template to get it to the size that I wanted. I could not afford the extra costs associated with Stewart Warner Instruments having internal light bulbs. So these are the cheaper ones. There's no lights internally. And to make up for that, 58 DKW license plate lights are installed here and here with the lenses painted with machine dye to give me that blue purplish look that I liked from the Jaguars that I worked on. VDO speedometer and tach. We already covered the change of the steering column. And of course this is a 57-58 Corvette ring. Hurst Competition Plus shifter, modified to move that over. The seats are 1969 Corvette seats. And let's see, I guess I'll close this off. I don't want to get it too long, but this is a Repro 49 Ford gas tank that I put in and replaced the original 58 MGA 12-gallon tank. And that's covered on a separate video into my channel if you wanted to look how I come about to put that in. Auxiliary electric fuel pump in the back. And battery cutoff switch over there. I'll talk later perhaps on the frame details and how Johnny did it and what the results in the end of it is. Okay, so I think that's about it for now. I'm going to close this out and I'm going to publish this, get it out before Christmas as Coupe M2. Looking pretty good right now. So thank you all for watching, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So take care out there. Bye-bye.